Okay, so um, here to talk about Better Call Saul one last time before going into the series finale coming in what a few days. You know, I back in the day I would actively review or talk about movies on YouTube, but the one thing that like would actually get like some views, like 1,000 views or whatever, were my reactions to Breaking Bad. And I think that was just because I would do them right after the episode, and people were rabid fans of the show, just like me, and I would pop up, I guess, and people would see. It was like having someone to talk to, probably your thoughts about Breaking Bad. But so here I am back. I haven't really done YouTube in years, but I did give mid-season thoughts on Better Call Saul, and I want to do one more thing of thoughts before we head into the finale. I talked about it a little bit. I think with 3 episodes left, I talked about it on my podcast, Recurring Nightmares. So you could go listen to the last episode of that to hear my thoughts on it. But since the mid-season, break, I think it's been amazing. Get ready for it. I think it's better than Breaking Bad. Crazy, right? But I know there's a lot of fans of Better Call Saul who've long said that Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad. I thought they were crazy. I'm kind of I'm very on board with it now. Let me put it this way: I haven't been this excited about a finale or the last few episodes of a show since Breaking Bad. But I think it's more so here because it's just so much more subtle. It's so much. It's just deeper character work. It's not about who's gonna die or what's gonna happen. I mean, part of it is about what's gonna happen. It's like this whole thing. Like people are all worried about. Oh, is Kim gonna die? Kim gonna die? Like the whole series because everyone loved Kim so much. Is she gonna die? Is she gonna die? I'm like, that was never in my head because I'm like, I never thought she was in danger of dying. It was always gonna be somehow she's out of the picture, but not that she was dead. It just didn't fit. Then again, look what happened to Howard. But yeah, it's an interesting trajectory with Better Call Saul because when it got announced, I was like, I don't know, do we need a show about that goofy lawyer character from Breaking Bad? Like he was almost so cartoonish that like he didn't fit with Breaking Bad. He was like the comic relief, but like on a show that like was funny at times anyways without having comic relief. Like why do you want to do a show about this cartoonish lawyer character and then what are we doing like this lawyer show? And that's kind of like before it's even announced. And they had thought about for a while making it like a half hour like kind of comedy lawyer show. Like there's one of the like ideas going around, um, but it ended up being a show about like how did this person become this cartoon character? Like why is that? But anyways, then when the show came out and it was airing, I'm like, it's very good. But it's a totally different vibe than Breaking Bad. Much slower. Not like Breaking Bad was like, let's go. Like it was very intense and very like. And this is like very. This show is like Better Call Saul always and still is like very methodical and very about the details and it's about process and showing you just the details of how things play out instead of telling you. But it was always like, and it still in many ways is, but it was more character drama than the intense crime drama of Breaking Bad. And then the first 2 seasons, it was kind of like it was a tough sell. Like I stuck with it, but I like was sympathetic to people that it weeded out. by being so slow, and by like like you get to the end of the season, you're like, all right, what did it build up to? Not that much. It seems like to me. That's how it was the first two seasons. Then season three, it was like kind of the same thing, but when you got to the end of the season three, when the whole Chuck and Jimmy storyline paid off at the end of that with like a pretty tragic consequences, then I was like, oh, I see what the show is doing. Like it's slow burn, long payoff character drama, but it's gonna pay off and it's gonna be worth it. And that's when I like kind of was like had faith in the show. And I know like people who I really like who like dropped off in season two. They're just like, it's good, but like, what is this? Like, it's not really like blowing my hair back. Then like seasons 4 and 5, it's like, oh yeah, this show is actually great. And you get the whole season. I think it was season 4. I think it was season 4. That was like all about the creation of Gus's lab. Like Gus and these other characters become much bigger parts of it. Then, because you already know what's happening with Gus, like Better Call Saul came up with like their own big villain that was separate from Gus, and it's one of the Salamancas, Lalo. And he's great. Like at first, I was like, "Who is this guy?" But he really grows on you. So yeah, seasons 4 and 5, I'm like, "Oh, the show is actually great." And season 6, despite a lot of it being like, "What is going on with this Jimmy and Kim plot with Howard?" Like, this seems so low stakes for the final season. Like, what's going on here? Well, turns out it wasn't low stakes. Actions have consequences, sometimes unintended and sometimes very tragic and horrific. And it's to the point now where, like, in this final stretch of the 6th season, I'm like, is this the best show ever made? Like, I know it's like, it sounds like kind of like hyperbole or whatever, but it's like, to me, it's like right up there with like The Sopranos and Breaking Bad and The Shield. Like, it's right up with all of them, except like it's telling more of a plot than The Sopranos, and it's more nuanced and it's deeper than The Shield or Breaking Bad. Like, it really is. Like, it's the story of how someone becomes their final form, but also how they can never really escape the nature of who they are. I'm absolutely obsessed with Better Call Saul right now, and it's a show that's like worth obsessing over. Because the more you put the thing about Better Call Saul is like the more thought you put into it, the more it rewards you. It's a show that like asks questions like which version of you is real? Does it matter? Like, can you come back from the things that you've done? It's just, it feels so perfectly constructed, and like as you're getting to the end here, it just feels so like they had it all planned out from the beginning, which I'm sure they didn't. I know how writing works, and I know how this writer's room works. It's probably something that they were debating what to do going into season 6. They probably set up this whole thing with the cabbie guy back before, not knowing where it was going to go, and they had to like work it out going into this. But it feels like so perfectly constructed. Like, you get that part at the end of this last episode where he sees his ad on her laptop, and you see it reflected in his glasses, and it's the only thing that's in color. And I guess back in the very first episode of Better Call Saul, there's a shot of him in this like black and white, post Breaking Bad era, where he's watching one of his ads, and it's like the only thing. It's like the same shot. It's like reflected in his glasses, and it's in color. And it's the only thing that's in color. And just, again, I'm sure something they came up with on the fly. They're like, "Oh, remember when we did this? We're doing a little callback to that." But it just feels so like, in much the same way I thought like when the Shield ended, like it felt like they had planned that ending from the beginning. That's exactly how this feels. These last few episodes have been so exciting, but just to realize, like, kind of the whole show was like building up to this mistake with Howard and it, the evolution of Jimmy and a toxic relationship between Jimmy and Kim, and then to see how like that's played out since then, it has just been incredibly like satisfying and exciting, and it's like it's more exciting than anything that's it's crazy because like through most of the series the exciting parts were like the mob shit, like the mob, the cartel, whatever, the Gus and Mike storyline. It's like that stuff is less exciting to me now than whatever's happening with Jim and Kim. The the uh, the much hyped like cameos of Walter and Jesse. It's like it's nothing. Like I'm so much more invested in what's going on with Jimmy and Kim and like the reckoning that their souls are going through than all these like fun things. And in fact, I think the way they brought back Walter and Jesse was like really smart in a way. And like I don't see anyone really ever comment on this, but like you could argue that the whole point of the Jesse and Walter scene when they first came back was to emphasize the fact that in Jimmy's mind, just because you have cancer doesn't mean you're like a good person, and that plays directly into the like post breaking like the Omaha storyline that was happening at that point where they're going to rip off this cancer patient and his partners are like, dude, we're not doing this, like, are you crazy, like the guy has cancer, that's too mean, like he doesn't deserve it. And Jimmy's like, dude, just because someone has cancer doesn't mean they're not an asshole. And it's like you could argue that the reason that they had those Jesse and Walter cameo there was just to set that up, which it's not just a wink and here's your favorite characters from the previous show. It's speaking to something that's happening and what's relevant in this story. I really love what they've done with the Jimmy and Kim storyline in this final stretch. So that's it. Maybe I'll do another video after it's all over, but predictions for the finale. Okay, I did this prediction earlier, but I don't know everything that's going to happen, but I have like in my head how it's going to play out, and I'm sure it'll be wrong. I guess I'll have to check back to see how wrong I got it, but in my head, there's two things that like happen. One is near the end of the finale episode, you get a montage of all these places that were in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and it's like all these places where these horrible things have happened, but the characters we know are gone now, and the places are different. Like they show Jimmy's apartment, but obviously someone else is living in Jimmy's apartment now, and so like it looks different, the furniture's different. They show the Cinnabon in Omaha, but it's just a vacant storefront now in a dead mall. Like you just do all this stuff to show how time has gone by. And that plays into the Ozymandias concept, where it's like no matter how big your legacy is and the great or terrible things you've done, time kind of erodes everything. 500 years from now, no one's going to remember this show. No one's going to remember Breaking Bad. Like, time will erase everything. I really wanted to do that and just give a nod to like all these places in the series, and I think they will. Like, they did the Ozymandias concept, But then the ending. Jimmy's gonna go to prison. I'm calling it now. I almost want to put money on this with some of my coworkers. I do have some coworkers that watch this. He said, like, one coworker, he's like, oh, he's just gonna be slipping Jimmy somewhere else, still pulling off the same bullshit. I'm like, they're not gonna let him off the hook. They already felt like they let Walter off the hook, and they killed Walter. I think he's gonna go to prison. and it's going to switch to color, and he's going to be thriving in prison. He's at the very least going to be able to like be himself again, like this vibrant, like kind of loud personality, and because he has nothing left to hide anymore. He's in prison. He's been caught, and he'll be doing well. Maybe he'd be like the guy that'd be selling cigarettes or whatever, like running the poker games in the prison, but also maybe helping other inmates with their legal cases and stuff like that. And he's getting to do some of what is calling again. I don't know if you would argue that the law was ever really his calling, but uh, and and then you get a final scene where he gets a visitor. He goes, and it's Kim on the other side of the prison glass. She reaches for the phone. She picks it up. Cut to black. Who knows? Most or all that will probably be wrong. I'm really excited to see how they'll surprise us. But if they did do something like that, I would really love it. I still, whether I'm right or wrong about how the prison and how all that, I'm getting pretty specific about how I think it'll play out. But I do think that they should do a montage with the Ozymandias concept of just like all these big players in Albuquerque are nothing now. Like all of it's nothing. The mall that in Omaha is nothing now. Like it's all, the world moves on, and the world will move on. And that's the thing that sucks because for as hyped as I am about the finale of this show, like again, I haven't been this hyped for a finale in a long, long time. It also like it's a total bummer because you're just like, when is there gonna be a show that's this long term rewarding again? That's just this well done. I don't know. Like, I'll be happy to see what Vince Gilligan's doing next. It sounds kind of like a Black Mirror type thing, and he's got a lifetime pass for me. I'll be watching whatever he does, but it just feels like, man, it like it really sucks to finally let go of this Albuquerque crime story. Because it's just been so perfect, and there's just you don't get stuff that's perfect like this. So we'll see how it goes. But again, I have like kind of complete faith that this is going to be phenomenal ending and better than Breaking Bad's finale. Maybe not machine gun popping out of the trunk, but more satisfying here. So, anyways, thanks for watching. I'm sure I'll get a few views out of this just because what I'm talking about, but. Enjoy it all, everybody. This is it.